Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Joe Palmer begins now.
Good evening, everyone. The heat turned up in Tasmania's Parliament today with 2 senior politicians butting heads over what's being called an inappropriate remark over gender. Speaker Sue Hickey stood her ground after calling out a female member for unladylike behaviour.
Amidst back and forth yelling across Parliament, Speaker Sue Hickey spent this morning trying hard to maintain control. But it was this comment which left long-term Labor MP Michelle OByrne unimpressed.
Miss OByrne, it's very unladylike to be yelling in the Parliament.
Can I draw your attention to the inappropriateness of mentioning someone's gender in any kind of warning in Parliament?
In response, the visibly angry Speaker did not hold back.
Word ladylike, Madam Speaker.
Oh, for goodness sake, this is political correctness taken to the nth degree. Your behaviour was inappropriate, whether it was ladylike or otherwise, and I will not be spoken to like that again, Miss OByrne.
I think it's a pretty outdated term in 2019 and a strange choice of words for Sue Hickey to use today.
She has a job to do in keeping the Parliament in a measured, professional way and to act in a way that's parliamentary.
It was the start of a day once again dominated by growing concern over health funding. Rumours running wild amongst Royal Hobart Hospital staff that $50 million could be cut from its budget.
$50 million out, you've really got to wonder whether in fact we've got a health system and whether we've got a government that has any commitment at all to a health system.
We are not going to make cuts to frontline essential health services. That is not going to happen.
But the peak medical body remains unconvinced.
$1 out of health is a bad decision. If we're talking about 50 million, that's 50 beds in caring for patients, and it's putting staff who are already under enormous pressure under far more pressure.
Parliament continues tomorrow. Michelle Wisby, 7 Tasmania News.
A 60-year-old man has died after he was involved in a horror crash in Harbour on Monday morning. It's understood the man from Sisters Beach was attempting to turn right off the Bass Highway when a prime mover collided into his sedan. The 47-year-old truck driver did not sustain any physical injuries. The Real Estate Institute is reporting a worrying exodus of property investors in the Tasmanian market. In the first 6 months of the year, investor purchases were down more than 10%. In the last quarter, Hobart's median price dropped almost 8% and Launceston's was down by 1.2%. The Real Estate Institute is reporting a strong and active market on the northwest coast, with growing numbers of transactions and a slight increase in the median price. He was preparing to leave his grandson's football game when he suddenly collapsed in front of his family. But Roger Donato is still breathing, and today he had a chance to thank those who saved his life.
A heartfelt thanks to his Reviver rescuers. Each of these people is a lifesaver for grandfather Roger Donato.
We're at my son's under-16 football game at Queenborough Oval, and Dad went to pick up the car to bring it closer to pick up Mum, and when I saw him get out, he collapsed.
Daughter-in-law Sarah wasted no time with her CPR training.
When I realised Roger wasn't breathing, I just knew that we had to start compressions.
While an off-duty nurse grabbed a public defibrillator from the nearby club rooms and delivered the shocks.
He's 86 years old, and we thought, well, this might be the
end of it.
Yeah.
Roger was rushed to hospital in an ambulance. After 3 anxious days of waiting for Roger's family, he finally woke up.
I do not remember things, but what I wanted to say is a thank you to those boys that brought me right again.
The paramedics aren't holding back on the praise.
Look, I thought they were amazing, to be honest with you. Like, it's very easy to, have a scene like that becomes very chaotic very quickly.
10% of people who suffer a cardiac arrest walk out of hospital, so Roger's in a very small group of people.
Today, Roger used the reunion to receive his own lesson in life-saving.
Anyone can pick them up and use them.
90 AEDs are now up for grabs through Ambulance Tasmania's Community Fund program. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
Youth charity White Lion has made a shock announcement. It will close down its Tasmanian operations by September. The organisation, which works with at-risk young people, revealed the news on social media this morning. The closure will affect 7 staff and 50 volunteers. The charity is best known for running its bailout fundraiser. In just over an hour's time, South Hobart will step onto the national soccer stage. It will face 4-time national champions Marconi at Blunston Arena tonight in the first round of the FFA Cup. John Hunt is at the ground tonight. Good evening, John. How's the atmosphere?
Good evening, Joe. Yes, it's starting to build nicely, with more than 2,000 people expected to cheer them on at Blunston tonight. People are starting to roll into the ground hoping for glory. South Hobart qualified for the tournament after winning the Lacko Seljuk Cup back in June. They competed in the first 2 FFA Cups back in 2014 and 2015, both times going out in the first round heartbreakingly on penalties. Sydney-based Marconi are a historic club with a proud history. However, locals are hoping tonight will be their night.
This is big because fans from other clubs can come and support, and you got a potential for A-League team in the future. So hopefully everyone gets behind it tonight.
For Tasmania, it's just it'll be amazing to get to the next round.
It's a pretty big game, so I just hope they can do good and hopefully win.
Joe, tickets are still available with the match kicking off at 7:30, and I'll have a full preview of the game a little later on in sport.
OK, let's hope it's a fantastic game. Thank you so much for that, John. John Hunt joining us there. There are growing concerns tonight over the large-scale culling of native black swans across Tasmania. Documents reveal more than 8,000 of the swans have been shot in the past 3 years under permits issued by the state government. The Greens tabling these photos in Parliament today, saying residents have reported animal welfare issues after seeing swans suffering.
Permits seem to be handed out like confetti. What is the justification for allowing landowners to kill 8,000 beautiful black swans?
Where wildlife is causing damage, as I say, a crop protection permit may be granted to enable those applicants to cull the wildlife if alternative non-lethal strategies are neither effective nor practical.
The Minister says department staff access cull locations and there are quotas. As Plastic Free July wraps up, a new hands-on project has been launched today to tidy up the polluted Tama River. Locals are being urged to pick up debris and rubbish for one day to encourage better community care of the area.
The iconic Tama River seems pristine on the surface, but if you look deeper, it's a different story. The tourist attraction has been plagued with pollution for years and is now set for a mass clean-up.
Our aim is to get as many people along the Tama involved in it on the one day, at the one time, collecting as much rubbish and effectively catching it before it gets into the catchment.
It's estimated 80% of marine rubbish ends up in the oceans via rivers and estuaries. And in November, locals will be putting on their gloves to help make a dent.
And this is a project which we think is going to benefit the whole northern Tasmania and Launceston in particular. So Catch It in the Catchment, a fantastic cry call, and want to encourage people to get out and to have a go and to clean up where they can.
Catch It in the Catchment is aiming to create a pristine river to bring in more visitors to the region.
We realise now that the river can be a great tourism asset for the northern region. This is an iconic river, and I think that everybody should think long and hard about dropping anything into it.
The event already in the calendar for 6-year-old Harbour, who, alongside her family, started a local clean-up group during Plastic Free July.
I don't want the animals to get sick or hurt because they could eat it.
The clean-up kicks off on November 10. Ruby Kamain, 7 Tasmanian News.
Tasmania is about to be bowled over, hosting a world-class 10-pin bowling tournament next year. The invitational event will feature some of the world's best players, including Australian world #1 Jason Belmont.
For nearly 25 years, United States 10-pin competitors had a stranglehold on the world #1 ranking. That was until 2014, when an Australian bowled them over. Jason Belmonte has held the ranking for 5 years running. Rolling his first ball at just 18 months of age, he hones his special skills with training up to 8 hours a day. He spends 6 months of the year competing in America, where the sport has a strong following. This video of his trick shots notching up 90 million views on YouTube.
We're on network television. We have major sponsors, and we have a rather large tour.
And Hobart is now set to join in on the action. It'll host an invitational tournament beginning next year, with Jason and some of the world's best players to compete.
The idea is we incorporate them in with some Australian bowlers, and we hold a really amazing event in the Devil's Lair, Tasmania.
Jason says this new tournament, which will be beamed around the world, will help gain the sport more eyeballs in Australia.
The goal is to come back here, try and build the sport, so not just myself but other bowlers, and the sport itself has bigger recognition.
Jason should be a household name. The intention with this event is that at some point every Australian will know Jason.
He's also praised Tasmania for getting behind the sport.
Beautiful destination. It's kind of like one of Australia's best kept secrets.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
A rare whisky auction is set to attract enthusiasts to the state from across Australia. It's being held during the upcoming Tasmanian Whisky Week, and there are more than 20 rare whiskies up for grabs.
A tipple of whisky is proving to be a winter warmer for our tourism industry. Distillers preparing their wares for Tasmanian Whisky Week to show off to visitors from near and far.
Whisky Week is getting bigger and better. We've got heaps of different events on. There's small events, there's big events, there's something for everyone, for every budget.
One of those events is the Rare Whisky Auction, with limited edition bottles up for grabs. The draw card, a single malt from Scotland, being specially flown to Hobart for the occasion.
It's a 59-year-old Scottish whisky, and they're hoping to get something in the range of $7,000 to $9,000 or upwards of $17,000, I think they're hoping. And it wouldn't surprise me if they did.
Whisky attracting tourists to the state, coming for the high standard of the drop we produce.
We've got some of the cleanest water, cleanest air in the world, fantastic barley, great produce, such a fantastic environment to produce it in.
Bill Lark, one of the pioneers of our industry, saying its success is thanks to its people.
I have to say, I think this industry would only exist today. It only exists today because of the wonderful attitude of the people that are in the industry.
The whisky and the distillery industry in Tasmania really reflects the brand strengths that we want to be showing to the rest of the world. It's quality, it's small producer, it's collaborative, it's supporting small business.
Ebony Ablett, 7 Tasmania News.
In local football now, and the under-15s women's Tasmania Devils have managed their 3rd win today, beating New South Wales 37 points to 19. It follows victories against Western Australia and the Northern Territory in the Australian Football Carnival.
It's amazing. I don't think Tassie's ever felt this success before in women's footy, and in game 1 I think it's just amazing to see the smiles on their faces. It set them up for a good carnival as well. So I think they've done themselves really proud already.
The girls will take on South Australia at Prospect Park tomorrow. As we reported earlier, South Hobart is just over half an hour away from facing Marconi Stallions in the first round of the FFA Cup. The team had one final look at Blunston Arena this morning, confident they can overcome the Sydney side.
One last look before the big game. South Hobart inspected their home away from home before tonight's blockbuster FFA Cup fixture, praising the quality of the Blunston Arena surface.
Had a light run on it last night to get a feel of it, and the ball was moving around unreal. So yeah, looking forward to playing on it.
I'm sure it'll have a little bit of water on it tonight, so it'll be slick by kick-off time, so I would expect a good playing surface.
Opponents Marconi are 5th in the New South Wales Premier League and won the Waratah Cup to qualify for the tournament. Ken says he expects a tough match, wary of the way they move the ball.
Their centre-backs are looking for that long vertical ball, They played up to the front players quickly as well, and the wingers.
The Lacquer Seljack Cup winners warmed up for this match with a win over Launceston City in the MPL on Saturday. South are a little undermanned, but the captain says they just have to play to their strengths.
Short and sharp, keep it moving, and don't go like for like with them.
And while rivalries in this state run deep, they're hoping Tasmania supports them.
We believe our style of football is good enough to compete with the best around Australia. So we're hoping to go out there and show a good representation of Tasmanian football.
Just hope it's a lovely night that people who love football come out and get behind the round ball game.
Sean Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
13 degrees today in Hobart. Launceston had a top of 12. Burnie hit 13 with 11 degrees in Devonport. Around the state, St Helens had the state's top temperature with 15 degrees, 13 on Flinders Island, 13 also for Grove, Wynyard, Campania and Ouse. Low Head hit 12 with 11 at Lyowini and 10 degrees at Smithton. On the charts, cloud dominates the west of the state today and moves through Bass Strait. Further out, onshore winds push that cloud over parts of the southeastern quarter of the country, with cloudy conditions about the central east but clear elsewhere. Tomorrow shows the high remaining dominant over the Bight, extending ridges over most of the country, a cold front passing the state. West to northwesterly winds, mostly 20 to 30 knots, shifting southwesterly later and reaching 30 to 35 through the south and the southeast. Seas up to 3 metres, mostly with 4 in the south. There's a gale warning current for lower eastern and southern coastal waters. A strong wind warning for the western and eastern coastal waters. That also includes the Derwent Estuary and Norfolk and Storm Bay. And there is a small craft wind alert for the southwest and central lakes. Finally, there is a road weather alert for icy conditions about the central north, the Midlands and the east coast. Onto the forecast, 13 in Hobart tomorrow, 12 with morning showers for Cygnet and New Norfolk, 15 and early frost in Launceston, 14 in Devonport, 12 for Campbelltown. 13 degrees in Burnie and Smithton, showers for Strawn 12 degrees, with a top of 15 and cloudy conditions for St Helens and Swansea, 13 and a frosty start for Fingalore. A fine day Friday, just some showers about the west. Saturday showing showers for the western, southern and central parts, mainly fine for other areas, with light showers about the west on Sunday, morning frost and fine weather for the remainder. Taking a look at the capital cities for tomorrow now, 21 and sunny in Perth, 14 and grey skies for Melbourne, Canberra 15 degrees, showers for Sydney 20 the top and Brisbane 22 degrees. And at the moment a few clouds in Hobart 8 degrees, 7 and clear in Launceston and a clear night 6 degrees in Devonport. Joe, 1 month of winter, we're almost there mate.
Oh, almost, I'm holding on. Thanks so much for that. Well, that's all from the team for now. Thanks so much for your company. Have a lovely evening and we'll see you a little later with updates. Bye-bye.